Is this person I'm about to take on, is it just going to be another transaction? Or is this going to be a gateway to a transformative relationship from a financial advisor standpoint?
If it costs me $1,500 per household based on staff costs, office space, technology, all in, okay, I need to make at least $4,000 a year because $1,500 I'm breaking even. What is my time worth? And then what's the liability of bringing everything out? So you have to add up all these things, set that floor.
One of the hardest things you do in scaling is letting go of people that have gotten you here, but realizing you can't get there with that setup. All right. Well, Carm, this is our third episode in this series where we talk about scaling seriously, right? So we've talked about intentionality. We've talked about the 10X mindset versus the 2X mindset. We've talked about vision as the tool. We give you some practical tips along the way that we've done as people who are in the seat, doing the job as advisors and as firm operators. In this series, we're going to talk all about the client, ideal client, the avatar, the value you create for the client, the standardization of process to serve that client, and help really think about how your firm is serving and who they're serving. Because one of the big mistakes people make when they're trying to scale is that they have complexity. They're trying to serve too many people. So, Carm, I don't know about you, but when I started this business, you started the insurance business. I started with a broker that taught us to make clients by knocking on doors. And part of that is you had to go out, at least from my experience, and literally find anybody that would fog a mirror and try to sell them a stock. That's how they trained us. They literally trained us with the phrase, if you have some money available, I think you should buy some today. And it was like Walmart stock, and this is right before all these discount brokers were coming on board where you still could charge 2.5% for a stock sale or buy. That was still a good model. That has since changed significantly. But the idea was if you could fog a mirror, then you were my client. Now, that was great because it got me started. It got my feet wet, got me in the business. But what I soon realized is that if I took on anybody, I couldn't take on the clients I wanted to, and I would not be able to scale and grow. And so it's so important that you know who you're focused on serving, how you're going to service them, and how you create that enduring value in the relationship, which is especially true with the onset of AI technology that's coming at all of our businesses. So when you think about client avatar, how do you think about that, Carmine? What have you done in your firm to construct the client avatar that you're targeting?
The first step we do with all of our advisors is we segment their current client base. So this is kind of old factory, new factory, right? This isn't a discussion on fire all clients who aren't business owners or any of that stuff, but old factory, new factory, define your A, B, and C clients. Usually we use revenue. I think that's probably the best predictor or KPI for a client to use to segment them. And then we say, okay, here's what your client avatar looks like now. Minimum revenue of this. Maybe they are attorneys or they're business owners, and here's the services you're going to provide. And it's so many times and I'm guilty of this too, but in this day and age, an advisor that wants to grow or scale, and they're not clear on the services they provide and who they're providing it to. Going back to, if they'll take a call with me, I'll talk to them because there's going to be something I can help them with. Instead of flipping it, saying, no, I want to be very intentional. Again, a common thread through our first three sessions here is, no, here's what a client looks like in order to have a seat on my bus. And here's exactly what I'm going to do to help them. And the people that can do that really well are the ones that, no, they don't grow, they scale because they're very intentional on who they serve and what they do.
It's kind of counterintuitive, actually, right? Like, when you're building a business, there's this like instinct that you have to take everybody because who knows where your paycheck's going to come from? Do you have enough people? You don't want to say no to this person because that might be your last person. And I can truly say as an advisor, when I started to see my worth to the client, and I came to terms with the fact that time is the true commodity and that I didn't have enough time to serve everybody out there, that I had to be selective, not in the sense that I'm better than anyone or anything like that, but just in the sense like I have limited hours in my day and I can't do it all as a human. So I have to be more selective in who I serve. Um, it was interesting because my growth went through the roof. Like I had more people. Like we just had one yesterday, and I'm sure you've had this happen to you too. This lady calls, I was referred to you, and I want to work with Daren Blonski. And I told my staff, I'm like, well, I'm not taking new clients right now. So, she can work with one of the other advisors. But I'm very, very intentional and selective now who I take on as a client. But that's actually created this like demand pull towards me. And so the courage to say no is so critical to your future scaling growth, which is hard and counterintuitive. And it's actually kind of a scary thing to start saying no to people. But that actually drives a lot of growth for you as a business owner.
For sure. Coming from the insurance company realm where I was for 17 years as an advisor, and this can all ties back to scarcity mentality of I need to work with anybody that'll work with me. I'll take anyone. It doesn't matter. We were taught in that scarcity environment that you take on that client that's got $50 a month to put in the 529 plan because heck, they're going to need term insurance when they buy a home. Their parents are old. They're going to need long-term care insurance. Those narratives all drew back to what their core product offering was because that's how they measured you. Right. So I was forced as a CFP, charging fees for planning at an insurance company, no less, to take on clients that didn't fit my avatar at that moment, just to check my sales requirement every year. Because if I didn't hit that sales requirement, the benefits for me and my family were affected, my payout to my team and my staff, everything gets affected. So talk about a conflict of interest, right? So when we decided to go independent, it changed everything. And now it's like, okay, here's exactly what a client needs to look like in order to work with me. And because here's what I'm going to do for them. These are the services I'm going to provide. So being very intentional on that changes the game. We're no longer in the volume game anymore. Daren, that's a great weight off our shoulders, right? Because when you were at the brokerage house, it was, oh, great, Daren, you're a great guy, but what'd you do last year? Okay, great. Oh, you did this. You did a great job last year, Daren. 20% increase this year. Let's go. And they keep on moving that goalpost because it's their vision, not yours, that drives that.
Right. So we've got the avatar. So we talk about what is that ideal client that you want to serve? What is the avatar? It's getting careful about the decisions. I love what in your value filter, you talk about, is this person a transaction or a gateway? And that's true with clients too. Like, is this person I'm about to take on, is it just going to be another transaction? Or is this going to be a gateway to a transformative relationship from a financial advisor standpoint? And then we get to this idea of creating value. And some call it productization, but it's how do you do what you do, right? Because what we found in our practice as, if you look at the evolution of being in this business, when I first started, it was literally like selling stocks and bonds. And then it's evolved and we were a gateway from the transaction. Like as a broker, you were the gateway for the transaction. And then everyone started moving towards financial planning, financial advising. That's starting to phase out some. I think AI is taking over a lot of that. And so now we're really looking at what's the future evolution of this business look like? And we're really keen and focused on like this business is going to become a concierge business. It's going to become a business of delivering quality relationship and human contact that's meaningful. And then it happens to be around the ideas of financial services and investments and financial planning. But we moved from the control gate of the brokerage to selling information, right? And access to information because we understood how IRAs work and 401ks work. But AI is going to relegate that part of the business. Now we're moving into the relationship piece of this business where more than ever, the relationship we have with our clients is more important than anything else we do with them. And I think advisors really need to start thinking about that transition and what that means in a scaling framework. The challenge with it is going to be is that it's really hard to scale relationship, really hard. So it means you've got to get even more clear about who it is that you serve. What is the person? Who is your avatar? And what is it that their challenges are? It's not about you as the advisor. It's about them and what problems you solve for them as their advisor.
Yeah, think about it. We have advisors that specialize. We have one team that specializes in VPs at Fortune 100 companies, right? They're very successful in that space because they are the absolute experts in stock options, warrants, all that. Like they know that cold, and they bring a ton of value to that level of executive that needs to make those decisions every year. We have one that, of all things, specializes in collision shop owners around the country. Now, talk about someone that went deep in the pain about niching. He started this niche years ago. Now he speaks at all their industry events, and he's an expert on exit planning for collision shop owners. So being very intentional and setting that floor of like a client needs to look like this. This is their type of work. These are the services I'm providing. Here's the minimum revenue. Think of how easy it is for your staff. So I'm going to draw a parallel to say like a contractor. So we know general practitioner contractors, so to say, that do additions, patios, decks, list it out. There's 15, 20 things. But then you run into a contractor that just does parking garages as an example. How easy is his estimator, or it's going to be easier if he's only doing parking garages? How easy is for his crew that they're only doing parking garage? How easy is it for them to build out their trucks and everything because they're only doing one thing, but they're doing one thing really, really well? That's repeatable, not only to you and your narrative to your client, but to your team that supports that scaling growth. Because it's the same client. It's the same story. It's the same problems that you're solving. That's when you can really scale, when that is a repeatable process. If you're everything to everyone, not to say you can't scale, I think it's a little bit harder.
Yeah. I think figuring out what that problem set is that you solve for, identifying those clients that commonly have that problem set, finding the right tools and consulting services and products that support that problem set, and then doing that over and over. We've developed in our firm, whereas we very much used to be just a financial planning firm and taxes, the whole 9 yards, and take everything, do everything. We're now very focused on looking for 3 different types of people that fit a specific avatar, that a specific set of solutions that we've haven't developed per se, but we've definitely coalesced them together and created the solutions. And we're now putting all our effort in marketing, all our energy to find these 3 different types of people because they have unique attributes and unique problems that we can solve for. And that, we believe, is the pathway to scale to 10x our business. But we're doing everything goes into that versus our more traditional panels, like I talked about in our last episode, that we were no longer working with Ramsey program because of that avatar didn't necessarily fit who we were looking for. Sometimes we come across those people, but it's less so. It was actually really hard though to say no and to say goodbye, because we had a long history with the Ramsey program. But we realized that wasn't going to get us to the future goal, this future intentional vision. And so one of the hardest things you do in scaling is letting go of people that have got you here, but realizing you can't get there with that setup. Doesn't mean you have to get rid of all your clients or anything like that, but there's certainly, you need to look hard at that. And that can be employees too. It can be clients, employees, partnerships, and really taking a level set look at all those aspects and saying, are any of these things that got me here going to hold me back from getting to our future state? And that's hard. So I think that's why people get stuck here, right? So we talked about intentionality. We talked about vision. Now we're talking where the rubber hits the road, where you make hard decisions about who you're going to serve and who you're not going to serve, how you're going to serve them, and how you're going to create that enduring value to those people. But it's super, super difficult to do. It takes courage, it takes honesty, and it takes transparency as a team to be able to move forward into a different future.
And something, it really starts with the basic information. I'll ask an advisor, the ones that are here know this, but if we're recording a lot of opportunities, they're very interested in how I coach our advisor teams, and that's really my only job now. I really work with helping our advisor teams grow. What does it cost to put a household for you to serve a household? And no one ever knows this number. I know this number. My advisors do because we go through this exercise, but very simple. If you're listening to this and you need to know, look at what your expenses were in all in last year. How many households do you serve? Quick division. That's how much it costs. Now, if it costs, say, $1,500 a year, I'm throwing a random number out there. Should you be working with, look at your book of business, do a revenue report per household. Anyone under $1,500 is costing you money, subsidized by your larger clients. It's a math equation. Now, I'm not saying go out and hot and fire or get rid of those top, those low 30, 40 households. But what you can do is at least initially create a standard from, again, old factory, new factory. Is all right, if it costs me $1,500 per household based on staff cost, office space, technology, all in, okay, I need to make at least $4,000 a year because $1,500 I'm breaking even. What is my time worth? And then what's the liability of bringing that? So you have to add up all these things, set that floor and say, okay, clients got to look at 5 or 6 or 7. I would say challenge yourself and get the higher the number, the better. But how do you make those decisions about that data? And so many advisors don't know that data. Very simple. Very simple to see what it costs. And from there, be very clear on who you serve. And people can say, well, I want to only serve accounts at $1 million. And I'm going to flip the script a bit and to say it's got to be based on revenue. Because you don't pay your bills based on AUM dollars, you base it on revenue. Because it may be $1 million client, but what if a good portion of their amounts in municipal bonds or money markets not billable at the time? There's a lot of nuances there, right? AUM can't be really the end all be all. It should be revenue. And again, these are some of the very simple basic tools that we bring our exercises, we bring our advisors through to arm them with the data to make these intentional decisions. And it is a real eye opener when we run these revenue reports and how many of these relationships are at or below what their current cost to maintain them are.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting because we went through that same exercise with all of our clients. So I took everyone that we onboarded last year. And again, we had a great year. We killed it. And then I looked at, okay, how much was this person? How much did it cost us to onboard this person? In California, it's very expensive to hire people. Mm-hmm. And when you look at it, like just to onboard, a typical person with an IRA, maybe 2 IRAs and, a Roth and a regular, and then a brokerage account, transfer it from somewhere, go through all the meetings that have to close the account. I mean, we're looking at $500 to $1,000 per client onboarding. And that takes time to earn that revenue back, right? So we just looked at it as like you're saying, as we said, well, there has to be a baseline revenue for any client coming on. Otherwise, we're not going to onboard them anymore because the cost of the labor is just too high, which is actually unfortunate for people needing service and needing help. But there's just not enough advisors to go around. And I think that's what's going to create even more drive for the AI type tools out there. I don't think they're going to relegate our job, but I think it is going to change our job as advisors. So being really clear about who you're serving, what is the standardized process for serving those people, and that it's repeatable, and that you have an enduring process of creating value, which we believe is headed towards relationship and more of a concierge than access to information or access to the markets like it used to be for the brokers. That's the evolution. It used to be access to the markets, access to information. That is no more. It has been democratized. Now it is concierge relationship that matters in this game.
I agree. And I think when we look at what we're going to do to service a client, and if your goal is to scale, because it may not be, you may be in a lifestyle practice, you have 85 households and you're just great. Roger that. No stress. That's great. If you want to scale, it's very important that the services you provide are scalable or as scalable as possible. So if you're doing complicated exit planning, which we have a couple advisors in my firm, I know you do as well, that do these high level type of exit planning consulting agreements with business owners, not very much. It's not scalable because it's complicated. Number one, there's a lot of steps to get to fruition. but every client's different. Your staff's gonna have to interact with that client different. There are multiple different softwares, and there's not just a client, you have the attorney, you have the account. It's great work, but just be very cognizant of that part of your business is going to be harder to scale because I don't think the AI and technology is there yet. There's no cookie cutter approach to exit planning, not even a little bit. AUM is a fantastic model to scale as long as, there's still people out there, Daren, that don't do block trading, right? There's people out there that don't use standardized models, that every client's in their own different portfolio. So yeah, AUM is a very scalable model if you have all these other things in check. Make sure the back office is able to, the advisor can just onboard a client and move on. But even I keep on going back to even just a simple blocking and tackling as an advisor. How many advisors, Daren, don't have a strategic calendar? Like we go through, we have a whiteboard in my office here, and every year we run the revenue report, we resegment their client book, and then we set what months, what clients getting reviews. And our service team sends those invites out the month before. It is a absolute machine. And I don't understand, and it really boggles my mind how many advisors are going into January saying, okay, I'll get all my reviews on the end of the year. We'll do 6 or we'll do 10 a month. We follow a different approach, and it starts with client segmentation, setting a floor. What does it cost? What's my minimum for a new client? And then okay, my A's are getting reviews in these months, my B's in this month, my C's in this month. And having your team, sharing that with your team, and they're going to go out and automate that all for you. Advisors who do that, they don't grow. They scale tremendously, and we have the data here to prove it.
But what's real about, and I think advisors need to be honest with themselves, and that is that a lot of advisors don't want to grow. And I think you need to be really clear about that, right? A lot of advisors, they want to have what they have, and they want to spend 70 days a year on vacation, not engaged thinking about their business or like visionary, but just truly have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And which is fine. But I think you need to be really clear. If you want to grow and growth is your target, then getting clear about who your client is, who your client is not, and then having that formula for creating value for that individual based on their problem set. And then building the operations like you're talking around, supporting that person from when they get reviews, don't get reviews. Do you do tax planning, not tax planning, asset management, whatever. That is the secret sauce in executing on that effectively. If there's anything as just watching your business grow, Carm, that I've seen you do better than most, and it's your just execution, man. You just execute on things. And that execution skill set is what sets you apart and why you've been able to scale so successfully. So we're going to wrap it there in our third episode for our Scaling Seriously series. We hope it's helpful to you. Reach out if you have questions. Carmine and I'd be happy to help in any way we can. Be well. Till next time.